Alright, so there's this thing called the major scale, like I was telling you. Um, it's like the basis of all Western music, basically. And basically, what it is instead of like 12 notes, like the 12 different notes before you get to like the octave, um, is that instead of 12, it's 7. And it's basically like that do, re, mi, fa, so thing, like I told you. And there's a formula to it, and it's really easy. Whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. So that's like the pattern. And what that means is whole steps and half steps. So if you're in the key of A, you'll figure out what this means at some point. But basically, like the song is in the key of A. It means everything is based off of that note, an A note. So the major scale, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, is 7 notes starting from that. So, uh, like in relation to guitar, in relation to the steps, whole steps and half steps, a half step is just the distance of 1 fret. So that's a half step, kind of dark sounding. Doesn't really matter, but. And then, so 2 half steps equal a whole step. Half step, whole step, half step, whole step. So that whole half, whole half thing is basically, again in the key of A, that's your A note. So whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. And then if you put it all together, you can hear it. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Really, really happy. So that's like the sound, that's like the major sound. So it's the sound of basically like a major chord. A major. Also down here, very happy sounding compared to A minor. Versus happy, sad, mysterious maybe. So major sound, minor sound. And basically, so if you're, again, that major scale, instead of going, like the whole, half, whole, half, you can, instead of going horizontally, you can go vertically. So that pattern looks like this. So again, starting on the 5th fret, because we're doing the key of A. 5, 7, then the next string. 4, 5, 7, then the next string. 4, 6, 7. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. If you ever want to get a good singer, or if you ever want to be a good singer, you should probably sing all these notes, like do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. You should be able to hit all of those, because basically singers are just singing the notes of different scales to a backing chord progression. But anyways, so and then the difference between minor and major is that basically each chord, like a major chord and a minor chord, follow chord formulas. And the formula is basically like, oh yeah, I guess I should explain that do, re, mi, fa, so thing. They all have numbers. So like, it's in the key of A. A is your number 1, also known as your tonic. I'm not really going to go nuts into music theory names of stuff, but that's your tonic, your 1. So do is 1, re is 2. That's your 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and then that's your 8th, but it's the same note as the A up here. Remember, same note, skip a string, and up 2 frets. That's an octave, they're the same note. So think of all those as numbers: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. A major chord is made up of, a 1, a 3, and a 5. And basically what that means is like all these different things have names. This is like your 1, this is your 2, major second. No one really calls it that. This is your major third. This is your perfect fourth, perfect fifth. They're called perfect fourths and fifths because they're in every single key. I'll kind of get to that. They're called modes, and there's always a 4 and a 5 in all the different modes, but that's a later lesson. It's your major sixth, major seventh, and then your tonic again. So basically a 1, a 3, and a 5 in a major chord. So that's a so that's like 2 octaves worth of that. So if you think of this, it's that E shape bar chord with A as the lowest note that makes it an E major bar chord, or an A major bar chord in the E bar shape. I'm just getting confused at this point, but basically like, each of these things have one. So this is like your 1, obviously we've established that. This, that's your 5, because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You go again back to this shape. Whoops, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. So 5, 7, 7. It's made of a 1, a 5, and a 1 so far. Not quite a chord. Chords have to have 3 different notes making them. So this isn't really a chord. Some people call it a power chord. It's basically like the star of the show in like rock music or like kind of metal. Like, I don't know. It's like it's basically like it doesn't really have a flavor. It's not major. It's not minor. It's just there. This 5, that note right there, just kind of gives it like depth instead of playing like you can play. And it's full. So like you could do that to practice too. You could just like power chords are cool because like you don't have to worry about, you know, playing a bunch of weird sounds together. Like for instance, like that might have its place, but it doesn't really sound that good right now. And it's basically because a little behind that, like there's no scale that has like 3 minor chords, each a full step away from each other. Like it just doesn't exist. It can happen, but it doesn't exist in like really simple musical theory terms. I digress. But anyways, if you do it with power chords, there is really no right or wrong. Anyways, but so that we have that 1, the 5, and the 1 there, and then so if you were to treat this as just an extension, you can do the same shape off of this note because it's still an A. You can do the 1, 2, 3. Well, that's like that other note that's in this shape. So you have a 1, a 5, a 1, and a 3. And then you could go ahead and count it out, but I'll tell you that this is a 5, and then that's the 1. And then, so that's a major chord. It's made of a 1, a 3, and a 5. A minor chord, which is this, compared to that, which is major. The only difference is this note. So that's major. That's minor. That's the difference between the major and the minor chord. And what you're doing is, if you think about this note, we just established that that was like the third. A minor chord is made of a 1, a flat 3, and a 5. And all flat means is that it's down 1 half fret, or sorry, 1 half step or 1 fret. 1, 3, 5. That's the 1, the 3, 5. Major, the 1, flat 3, 5 is minor. So like right there, just gonna show you a point. You said it's 1, 2, that's your third. So you'd be like, that'd be a major sound, flatten it. That's a minor sound. So you have like 1 5 1 3 5 1 1 5 1 flat 3. Listen how dark that is. 5 1. So that's like basically how you can go ahead and make chords, and kind of like know what you're doing, because you can do like extensions of chords or like fuller chords. Like for instance, a major 7 is made of a 1, a 3, a 5, and a 7. So I'm going to do the A shape because A bar chords only take up 4 strings, and a 1, a 3, a 5, and a 7. Well, hell, that's 4 notes, so I get all 4 of those if I just play these 4 strings. So basically, like, these 4 strings off of like the A bar chord. This is a D, by the way, because this note is a D. Because A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D. Same thing as down here. But anyways, so this has the same kind of like rundown as like the 1 5 1 3 5 1, but obviously if you're moving it down, you can't fit all those notes. But it's still 1 5 1. That's a major third right there. But so that 1 3 5 7, well, we just determined that that note is the same note as that, because skip string and then up 2 frets, it's the same note. So basically, if that's an 8 or a 1, however you want to look at it, because the 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, this is the 8. Well, 1 down is a 7. So this is your major chord. But take this note. That's your 7. Listen to this. Oh, baby. It's a lot more full because it's got 4 different notes, all kind of clashing with like the wavelengths as they hit your ear. It's a minor. Because guess what? A major chord's a 1 3 5. A major 7's a 1 3 5 7. A minor chord 1 flat 3 5. Minor 7 1 flat 3 5 flat 7. So you think about that. I'll do in the shape of D again. You have that. So think of like, you know, it's a minor chord because it's called a minor 7. So if we want to do it off of the A string, think of an A chord, move it out, do that same shape off of that D note, that 5th fret on the A string, and you go through it the same formula as before. It's 1 5 1 instead of the 3rd, because it's a minor chord, it's a flat 3. Well, the 1 5 1, take this note, this would be your 7, because we decided that it's a minor chord, and it's 1 flat 3 5 flat 7, 7, flatten it out. Listen to that. Almost as spooky as the versus the. So this is your minor chord. It's like 5 7 7 8, but then pull off your 1 here, that octave note, to the minor 7. Basically, take the minor chord, pull your pinky off. That's your major 7. It's minor 7. I think you frickin' get it at this point. So that's a major 7, a minor 7. There's one more 7th chord, and it's called just a 7 chord, like a C7 or a G7, if you ever heard of that, or an A7. And so if you think about the other chord forms, like in terms of sevenths, because they follow the same as just a basic major chord, a 1, 3, 5, 7 versus like a minor 7 chord, which is the 1, flat 3, 5, flat 7. Like if you were to mix those two, you could make up a chord that's a 1, a 3, a 5, and a flat 7 instead of the 1, 3, 5, 7 of the major chord. 1, 5, 7, 3. You can take this away, and you would have that, what's called, that minor 7 there. Instead of that 7 of like the major 7, you would flatten it because it's a flat 7. But you maintain all the other notes of that major chord, and you get. It's basically the whole basis of the blues. So if you think about it in terms of the E-shaped bar chord off of the E string, you can do like, if you want to do an A7, you probably never make a major 7th chord right now off of the E string, so I'll just tell you this is what it looks like. It's funky as all hell. It's 5, 7, 6, 6. Well, if this is your major 7 on the D string right there, you just flatten it. That leaves you with this shape. 5, 7, 5, 6. Kind of sounds ugly, but in terms of like blues, baby. So basically that's kind of what I want to go over, is that like the 1, 3, 5, that's called the triad, by the way. So like all these chords, and if you were to name them by their do, re, mi numbers, it'd be like, a 1, that's your 5th, that's another 1, that's your 3, that's a 5, and that's your high A note, which is the same as this, which is the same as this. But all those are composed of are a 1, a 3, a 5, and they're just repeated. So basically, I forget what I was going to say, but yeah, so I think that you just have to realize that all chords are basically just repeating tones or individual notes. And basically what I'm trying to set you up for is that there's like extensions, like, so if this is a major chord, and this is a D note, so this would be D major, well, you can do a D major 7. You can do a D7, which is basically dominant 7. It just happens that it's a D chord. It can be an A7, but it just happens to be that's a D7. You can have the D minor 7. You can have a minor 9th. It's like that song by Incubus. Yeah, so I mean, like, this is all 7ths, actually, I just realized. Like 7th type chords. So this is like minor 7. Extension chords, I guess. This is a minor 9. That's a major 7, and then there's that chord. I have no fucking idea what that chord is. It's just funky, but anyway, so you can do that, and then you can have like a G13. You can have a major 9th chord. This one, it's a C add 9. It's in fucking everything. But anyways, yeah, so like basically if you were to just like repeat this pattern, I don't know it, like, without actually doing it. Like, I can't tell you what it is, but 7, 8, God. I don't know, they all have numbers and they all repeat. So instead of this is a 1 and then skip a string and up 2 frets, that's a 1. If you were to include this note in a chord, it wouldn't be like a 2. It'd basically, you know, if this is an 8, it would be a 9. That's why you get like a minor 9 or a major 9. It basically just repeats, so that's why it's not like a G with an added 6th. It's like, you know, this is your 1 would be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Instead of a 6, it's a 13. So, I don't know. I'm basically just trying to show you that there's a whole world of chords out there, and it's pretty cool. But, yeah.